Hey, what's up, Zach here, and today I've got the Serious Player Only Easy One, and these things were just fascinating. Really had a fun time checking these ones out. Thanks to Serious Player Only also for sending me a pair of these to check out. However, as always, all opinions, good, bad, and different, are all my own. This video is by no means sponsored. And yeah, not obviously for everybody, but can't deny the kind of design, the R&D that went into these. So let's get into it. Now, starting off in the uppers, obviously these look like more of a casual shoe. I've heard a lot of people compare these to the Book One in terms of their upper look or what they're kind of trying to do. And I do get that comparison. As you go into the tongue, just kind of going to the vamp of the shoe and into the tongue, there actually is quite a bit of padding on the underside of the shoe. And then going into the tongue, that gets like 1.5 times thickness, but it is really nice and padded. I mean, zero lace irritation whatsoever. It also has 2 gussets. And now that I've seen it, now I want it. You know, I didn't really, honestly, like, 1 gusset is good, but now that I've seen 2 gussets, maybe that's the standard, as Mike Tomlin would say. And so as you see, you got the elastic band plus the more traditional integrated gusset into there. Honestly, lockdown on these things, fantastic, really none to mild heel slippage, and that did not matter what configuration I put the insoles in, which we'll talk about. The heel counter, it's not a ton of padding, but it is bulbous enough around your ankle, right around both sides of the Achilles tendon, around your ankle bones, that it just locks you in really well. There is no runner's knot in these things. That would have been nice to have, I gotta say, but honestly, for what it is, the lockdown, fantastic. Then on the top layer, it looks like synthetic leather. I didn't see anything to the contrary. And then canvas as an outer wrap to that. Then it's reinforced along the lace line. Honestly, that canvas, super substantial. I think that's what also gives you such a feeling of lockdown and a lot of containment and just a lot of confidence in these shoes. All that material also makes the shoe feel a little bit stiffer at first. Like I said, a ton of padding underneath of it. It's comfortable, but the uppers do take a little bit just to break in, feel a little more buttery. The interesting thing is, though, you look at this thing on the breathability test, it only heated up 102.3 degrees. Now, the peak external temperature only got to 75.3 degrees. Typically in a shoe that only gets around 100 degrees, peak external temperature is getting really, really high, and this one didn't even break 80 degrees. And so to me, look at the breathability mapping. Yeah, fog is escaping out of the sides of the tongue, even though it is double gusseted. And so that is nice. But I think it's just more how the materials are handling that heat. Also, the one insole is Ortholites. That's obviously going to handle heat a lot better than others. The other one is just dual density EVA though, and that one handled heat almost just as well as the Ortholite did. So yeah, a little bit of a conundrum. I think it's just that, heat's finding enough places to escape, and the materials themselves are just handling that heat well enough, but kind of a conundrum. Look at this thing on the upper durability test, 10-second tie grit sandpaper. And yeah, the burr does work the stitching, but it does not get through the outer layer. You also have canvas underneath of that outer layer of that stitched in pleather, synthetic leather, whatever it is. And you do get some outsole rubber. So honestly, dragging and sliding on an outdoor court, it might look a little bit scuffed, but in terms of pure durability, should be okay. All right, but getting into the midsole, this is where the real Mr. Potato Head starts with this thing. There's just so many different configurations you can put. Starting at the bottom of the shoe, that's a carrier of EVA, and then actually a Pebex shank. That's pretty nice. You get a little bit of weight reduction on the shank. It's not much, but it's there. Plus, a little bit more flexible, more resilient as Pebex is. Then going up from there is a super critical EVA drop-in. Thing is, you notice this drop-in, it's completely flat. There's not a lot of undulation to it. It's more mimicking your traditional midsole. That's why they say you can, put these, on court insoles in there, which is dual density EVA. And it's got a little bit of arch support, kind of the same as anything that would be more like Curex type orthotic, right? Or like Move All Day. Just, flexible, but you can feel it underneath of you. I noticed that if I was putting in the on-court or just the off-court Ortholite, the Ortholite one was a little bit more comfortable. The on-court one just had a little bit more arch support to it. That's gonna break down over time. I also put a Power Step bridge on it too. And I just noticed that the thicker you put the insole on top of it, just the more scrunched you are in the shoe, because the shoe is actually a little more low volume. It's also a little short, which we'll talk about in the fit section. The interesting thing is, look at this thing on the bounce height test, only got 30 centimeters in the rear foot, 27 in the forefoot. In terms of like pure bounce, the ball bearing does not reflect it. However, when you're in the shoe, all of those elements combined together, they do bend and snap pretty well, especially for a drop-in shoe. Remember, this drop-in is actually pretty thin, not a lot of it. Plus it is supercritical EVA. A lot of times, even EVA that is blown into supercritical isn't the most, it just doesn't reflect very high on a bounce height test versus TPE, supercritical TPE, whatever. So, but I will say when you have them on, maybe it's because they are just a little bit stiff too, so they feel a little bit more like they have a little bit more of a cantilever to them. They do feel very springy and very bouncy on foot. How that does over time, since the drop-in is a little bit thinner, since it is a drop-in, since, you know, if you're putting anything on top of it, you're getting a lot of layers, not a lot is attached to the shoe. How does that do over time? We'll see, you know, in 6, 8 months, a year when people have these on, but in terms of initial performance on them, when you activate the shoe, it definitely gives quite a bit more back than it does just statically. All right, but getting into the outsole tread, this is a polyurethane resin, and then it's got basically just some triangular patterns, got some herringbone to it, and just the SPO logo going down it, just proving my point that it doesn't matter what the traction is, as long as it's multi-directional. I do like it that the herringbone kind of is, you know, cut out a little bit. It's got jagged edges on it, getting a little bit of that micro gritting, which is pretty cool. I like that a lot. Grip test ramp doesn't slip till 43 degrees, has a ton of initial grip to it. It does pick up a little bit of dust. It's easy enough to wipe down though. It doesn't seem like it sticks really well, so I mean, you can just wipe it down. I noticed traction on these, pretty confident to be honest, plus it is full length tread, so you're getting a lot of ground contact on it. The ground feel is better than I thought it would be. Obviously it's not going to be as good as something where you're not sitting on 3 layers of differing foam, but I did not feel unstable in it whatsoever, which I thought was quite a feat of engineering. And speaking of looking at these things on the speed ratio, they come in at a 2.19, shank score of 0.1, brings it up to a 2.29. And yeah, I mean, they definitely feel a little faster than that on foot. I think it's because of the, you know, obviously it's better as a dynamic product than it is a static product. The stopping power in these is way better than you think they're going to be, especially for the silhouette of these. Like, where's the Book one that's exactly the stopping power you would think they would have on a court? These ones way outsized for what they are. I mean, these are just as good as really anything else out there. I mean, the lateral flange, just a rubber clip flange on the bottom, but it is enough. It's long enough, it's strong enough. That it does a really good job. I think that's also due to the low volume nature of the shoe. It just kind of scrunches your foot in there, which we'll talk about in the fit section. But all in all, just a surprisingly nimble, speedy shoe. Look at these things on the outsole durability test. 10 seconds highest grit sandpaper, basically just cleans off the tread. So the durometer and resistance to wear is good enough for indoor and outdoor courts. On a really hot day, they're probably gonna hold on to a little bit more moisture versus others, so you might wanna bring a change of socks with them. But they're all, you know, they're also not the heaviest shoes on the planet either, so they're also a little bit lighter, so you might get away with a little bit more with them outdoors on really hot days. But like I said, I would maybe just bring a change of socks just in case you're someone that sweats a lot and they start holding on to a little bit of moisture. All right, but getting into where I think you're gonna start to pay the piper in these things is the fit. Now, number one, they do have a 14-degree in-flare, and they do come in at only 28.5 centimeters in length. So number one, they're low volume. Number two, they're short. The thing is though, they do have a 9.9 centimeter metatarsal width and then an 11.1 centimeter toe box width. So typically it's just 1 centimeter difference between the two of them the way I measure. This one a little bit bigger, and then toe box taper only 24 degrees. So they're mellow up there, which is nice. I'd say if you're a narrow or medium foot and you're not long-toed, I'd just go true to size. If you're medium, longer-footed, longer-toed, I'd go up a half size. If you're a 2E, probably go up a half size, especially if you're longer-footed, a 4E. I think that's dealer's choice. If you're short, go up a half. If you're long, go up 1. If you're 2E and you're really long, you can go up 1 size. I think you'll have, I think you'll do fine with lockdown. You'll also get a little more room in there. That's the good and the bad part about it. For, the higher up feet you are, you can go up that half size and get a lot more room in the toe box. They're gonna feel super comfortable even for casual wear too. I will say, like I said, they are a little bit stiff to break in, especially in the height. Not uncomfortable in the uppers. Like I said, just a little bit more break in until they feel buttery. I'd say for people that'd be recommending these two, number one, pickleball players that want an indoor and outdoor shoe, this is top 5 for sure in terms of combination indoor-outdoor pickleball shoe. Basketball players that want a little bit more of a low top, don't want to sacrifice stopping power, they're still not going to be the same as an integrated midsole in terms of, you know, ankle spraining stopping power. But for something that is a drop-in midsole, also looks like a casual shoe, it's ridiculous how good they are. So in terms of every shoe, they're kind of like middle of the road, right? Like not something that I'd be afraid of people buying, but not something that I'd say like, this is the best shoe for ankle sprainers. But it's not bad. Like I said, I didn't feel unstable in them whatsoever. And like I said, all the metrics that I look for in terms of stopping power, in terms of lateral stability, they had it. And like I said, activating these things over and over again, that's when I really felt like they started to have pop. And the nice thing about SPO is you can just get a different drop-in, right? If you just want to get another drop-in, just put another one in there. If the one, you know, if the one you have in there bottoms out, just put another one in, which is fantastic. I would like to see if people are more using the just standard drop-ins that SPO has in these things versus doing the super critical like base layer plus insole or plus ortholite or plus orthotic or whatever. If you're just putting one drop-in in there, I think that would be a little bit more interesting, because then maybe you get a little bit more ground feel because you don't have so much between you, because it's just you, the drop-in, and then the shoe. I think that could be a really interesting combination for these. Maybe you get a little bit more pop out of them too. The thing is, I just like the combination. I like you being able to customize the shoe, right? That's what it's all about. Actually, pretty soon I'll be coming out with a book about how to customize shoes, manual on how to do that. So make sure you're checking out for that. That's gonna be, you can check out the email list. You can join that to see when that drops. But as someone who like really prides themselves on being able to customize people's shoes, you know, for them, this is something really interesting. So I'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments down below. And I'd love to know if you're going with these, if you've bought them already, if you like them, if you've found maybe something a little bit different than I have. Please let me know in the comments down below. And if you want to check out the other Serious Player Only shoe I just reviewed about a week or so ago, the Serious Player Only Player 1 Plus, make sure you click into this video up above and subscribe down below. Respect your rubber and foam. I'll see you somewhere in the Sneakerverse.